I'm really happy to be here on the stage again. I think I've been every year here because this is the most important event of the Estonian startup ecosystem. My background is in math and computer science. I've been a software engineer for the last 20 years and building companies as well. Now I'm building my third company, which is Better Medicine, and we're going to make cancer diagnostic workflows in radiology double as efficient as they are today. But enough about me. Bulëza and Raja, maybe you can introduce yourselves as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us to Estonia, first of all. It's my first time here, so I'm very excited to be here. My name is Bulëza. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Wellfounded Health, a company that is driving human performance and health optimization, specifically tailored to startup founders and their teams. I have 10 years experience in executive leadership in the pharma and healthcare industry, and I've been dealing for 10 years with people that are very chronically ill and personalizing treatments for these people, especially for cancer patients. A lot of that has to do with personalizing nutrition, personalizing their exercise regime, and so on and so forth. And I've always been amazed that we only wait until people get really sick to start personalizing these treatments. That's why I'm very passionate about looking at preventative strategies, and especially for founders, prevention is very important, since mental health problems and problems with the health of a founder are in general quite a big problem that cannot be overseen.
Myself, I'm Raya. I'm based in Norway, and I help entrepreneurs actually from all around the world go to market, raise funding. I've been advising the last 8 years thousands of entrepreneurs in groups or in individual sessions. I'm an angel investor myself. I have launched several initiatives in Norway supporting the ecosystem. One of them is the Hub.io, which is a job platform helping startup recruit talent that is still up and running and doing great. And I would say, apart from being a startup advisor, angel investor, I'm also a serial burned out entrepreneur. So I think that's why I'm here, to share the stories and also share what I learned along the way working with all these founders. And it's, this is why we're here. It's all about what's the mindset, what's in the mindset.
Yeah, so a quick introduction. So we prepare the plan really well because we are people who don't want to disappoint you. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go into the problem of burnout and mental health issues. We are going to say and talk about where these come from, what could be solutions, and why are these kind of issues important for both founders and investors. So my first question to you guys would be that I haven't seen yet a founder wouldn't have had some kind of mental health issues. And it's said that roughly 60% of all founders actually suffer under depression. So why is that? Where does it come from?
So, first of all, I think there's, in general, when we're talking about mental health, there is statistics showing that certain psychological disorders are more common in founders. For example, ADHD, for example, is actually 10 times more common in founders, but also other, like autistic spectrum, which in some ways also give founders these superpowers to do what they do, to also concentrate in one thing very long. But also other parts of mental health, like depression, anxiety, struggling with sleep, are quite big problems that have a history of not being talked about because it was supposed to be something that's, worn as a badge of honor. Sleepless nights or, getting almost burnt out was something to be proud about. But I think we're having a shift in that space because we know that mental health in general, the founder's health, is directly connected to their performance. So I think a lot of the ways we go about this and the ways we see health within the team or the company, but also it starts with the founder in a more sustainable fashion, because it's not a sprint that you're going for, it's a marathon. So it's important to look at the long-term effects of this.
Could you bring some examples of the struggles you've seen yourself? You said you're a serial burnout.
Well, I will not give examples of others. I will maybe just talk about my own experience. Even if I experienced burnout actually before my entrepreneur journey 8 years ago, I was in private banking in Switzerland, and that's when I experienced my first burnout. So when I got burned out 2 years ago, I still didn't recognize the signs. What happened to me is that COVID hit. So first of all, March 2020. Everything is collapsing and changing, and the company I was running, I was made CEO. All of a sudden, I was from head of fintech, made CEO. Okay, now you need to manage this. Middle of COVID, March 2020, I'm like, okay, well, let's do it. At the same time, one of my companies was getting acquired. So in that month of March, I was becoming CEO. I had all the responsibilities of figuring out what we're going to do now. I was running an accelerator in Norway in fintech, proptech, and retail tech. So becoming CEO, then I'm selling one of my companies. The negotiation was tough, and everything is happening at the same time, plus having my 2 kids at home, plus like wondering what's happening with COVID. What is this? Are we all going to die? And I'm a bit anxious by nature. So it's like, what's happening? No, be careful with this. So a lot happening. And the way it started to express itself is that I could not breathe anymore. I was like, I can't, and I was just telling my husband, I can't feel my lungs. I don't have the capacity to breathe. I'm like, all day long, I'm working like, I'm trying, I can't. And I call my doctor, I'm like, I have asthma, and now COVID is around. What, I'm gonna die. I can't handle this, I have asthma. She's like, Raya, what's going on in your life? I'm like, listen, we need to check my lungs. And she's like, Raya, what's going on? I'm like, okay, this is going on. I'm like, you're having panic attacks. It's not like asthma, these are panic attacks. And all of a sudden it started to help me to understand what was going on. Looking from outside, looking at my situation, because I was inside and I couldn't understand what was happening. I was just in the moment working, trying to fix things and just getting things done. And then I was like, okay, these are panic attacks. So what can I do now? So let's go into the details. She wanted me to try some anti-anxiety medicine. And she said, but be careful, because these, you will feel good. It can get you addicted to this. I was like, okay, let's try. I took one, was like, yeah, feels different. That feels good. That feels too good. I'm not going to take it again. So I called her.
It was way too good, wasn't it?
It was like, wait, I'll enjoy this. I'm not going to take it again. I was like, no. I called her. I said, listen, I know you're trying to help me, but are you okay if I don't take this? She was like, yeah, your responsibility. You don't want to take it. You don't take it. I was like, but then what? What am I left with? So I managed to fix my exit, all good. And in some other symptoms that came that I couldn't, luckily I have a network of people I can reach out to, and it's quite easy for me to ask for help when I need help. So ask for help when you feel like you're struggling. So I started, other symptoms I had were that I started to just not simply believe in myself anymore. I was like, I don't have any vision anymore for the company, for myself. What is my impact? What is my contribution? I don't understand anymore what I'm doing. What's the meaning of life? With COVID, we can die. Or, at that time, it was huge, COVID. We all thought we were going to die. So it was like, anything can happen. I don't understand anything anymore. I don't know anything. And it's like you feel helpless. And this is one of the symptoms of being burned out or having depression. You feel helpless. So now we're going into the solutions, which I don't want to start talking about, but naturally I'm going there. My doctor couldn't really help me, but I had life coaches in my network. So I just reached out and I said, one of them is in Norway, quite well known. I said, Kea, I need help. I need to talk. I need to figure out what's my purpose again. I need to believe in myself again, because I just lost vision of my 5-year plan or what I'm doing, and so on. So these are some of the symptoms I had as a burned out person.
Basically, panic attacks, not being able to breathe, having no clarity or even self-confidence in a way.
No self-confidence. And if you know
and you're amazing at the same time, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm all about go-getter attitude and helping others achieve their goals. So, yeah.
Bulëza, I think, if I remember correctly, you explained that you had a similar experience, didn't you?
I
and you've been in charge of the company, doing 80 million a year in sales.
Yeah.
So you're pretty amazing as well. Did you have any similar experiences?
Yeah, so I think in general, people talk about burnout, but it's not something that just, drops from the heavens. All of a sudden you have burnout. It's something that builds up over a lot of time, even builds up of trauma that you could have in the past that you're just ignoring, and everything is starting to slowly manifest itself. I think one of the most important things for mental health is that we really are, because we think of mental health and we think, it's here, but, mental health is everything in your body. And actually being aware of your body and having a connection to your body is super important to recognize early symptoms that you're going in the wrong direction. Because a lot of people, especially founders, because they're all the time in their heads, and they think that it's their heads that make them successful and make them lead the companies. They have many of founders have strong disconnect to their bodies and completely ignore. Maybe first it can be small physical symptoms that can present themselves in different ways, difficulties breathing, or it can even be some form of allergies that come up that are all linked to mental health. For me,
I have allergies.
They don't have to be always, but I'm very passionate about the psychobiology or psychophysiology, how our physiological biomarkers affect the way we think and the way we feel and act. And for me, yes, I did have this moment where I just ignored everything until I had this moment of starting to get the beginning of something that was apparently a panic attack. And I was like, oh my God, if this happens, I actually can't work. And the moment that I realized that I can't work if I don't deal with this, it took me to take a step back and be like, okay, I need to take care of this. I need to actually take care of my mental health. And back then, I went to therapy. It was a therapist that was kind of acting like a coach as well. In the meantime, I have developed different measures that I make sure to, prevent that from happening. But I think a lot of people don't really understand the gravity of burnout. It sounds it's like, burnout. It's like a form of depression. But for some people, it can be extremely debilitating to the point that they can actually physically not move, or they have to be hospitalized. And it's a very serious problem that needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about in startup ecosystem. It's all about, everybody's just talking about, I raised the next round and I raised this and I raised that. Everybody's talking about their success, but nobody's talking about the dark parts of it.
This is interesting. I have noticed that, so for example, I also had a couple of burnouts already 15 years ago, like quite in a row. I did a fuck-up night talk about my burnouts and how the third burnout actually brought me to a divorce, which is a horrible outcome if you think about it. But the interesting thing is that people spoke about burnouts already 10 years ago, but somehow this was not really connected to mental health, was it? And somehow we are having a mental health panel right now, but not many startup conferences still have those. So why is it that we're not talking about this so much, or why is that this is not like a visible issue or spoken about? What do you think, guys?
Well, I think there is a stigma around it because as entrepreneurs, we're supposed to achieve, we're supposed to have a strong mindset, we're supposed to
crush it all the time.
Yeah, crush it. And that's one of the reasons. Luckily, I feel when we start to talk with each other, when we start to be open about our own experiences, we realize that others are going through the same thing. Like, what are we really trying to achieve by just pretending or by presenting ourselves in a way that is not authentic? Let's just talk about our weaknesses, about what we're going through. Let's seek help. Let's help other founders. And then we're creating a space. And as soon as we start creating these discussions, we realize we're not the only one. We're all struggling. What can we do together? So there has been a stigma, and there is still a stigma, and these kind of spaces are allowing people to just open up and create a safe environment to talk about it. So I think there is a shift here. And before, why there has been a stigma, I think for the same...
Yeah, I do think, first of all, there's something about, taking care of yourself or making sure you have downtime. And I always talk about, we think at Wellfounded, we think about startup founders as we call them startup athletes, and we compare them to star athletes that compete at the Olympics. Nobody, if you look at the statistics of athletes, 90% of athletes don't make it to the Olympics, and that's the same, like 90% of startups don't make it to that, very successful, almost unicorn level. But we see these star athletes winning the gold medals. They're not out there doing it alone. They have a whole support team of people, from physicians, psychologists, counselor, coach, who are their, Formula One team, making sure that they're performing at their peak. And nutritionists also, and they also make sure that the athletes have recovery time. Recovery time is very important for peak performance, but recovery time in startup world is seen as laziness or not working hard enough. And I think that
wait, are you going for this vacation in the summer? Shouldn't you supposed to fundraising right now?
That's ridiculous.
You have time to travel like this?
What do you mean, family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think the pressure is also coming from the employees, the teams themselves, because especially now during COVID, we have kind of like a paradigm shift around whether we're calling it the Great Resignation or whatever we want to call it, but people just aren't taking it. And you have these companies, successful companies that grow very fast. They get to like 100, 200 people, and then all of a sudden people start leaving. So they go to these companies and try to buy some well-being packages, and they're like, oh, how do we increase people's engagement in this? And they buy a well-being package, they give it to the people, and they're like, oh, why aren't they going to these whatever we're offering, meditation sessions or yoga sessions? And then you ask them, well, is the leadership going? And they're like, oh, but no, but we're too busy. Yeah, but you have to be a role model for your people. You can't just offer this to your teams. That's why we believe that we need to start with the leaders themselves, because they have the biggest impact in the health of the company as well. And not only the leaders, it actually has to start one step even further. It has to start from the investors.
Exactly.
The investors have to invest in the health. When they're investing in a company, they should also be investing in the health of the leadership team and the health of, which will increase the performance of the company.
This is an interesting aspect that what I've seen in different companies is that you have the pressure actually from investors. And right now I have the first experience with an investor, super angel, by the way, really good investor. And they came to me and said, look, we have here these four coaches. Would you like to try some coaching? I said, yeah, maybe. How much does it cost? We'll pay for it. I was going like, hell yeah. Let's do this. Let's try this out. This has been an excellent experience, I would say. So I see that this kind of mind shift from high pressure, you're putting anyway on yourself. So I know that my burnouts usually come from my own expectations. So I expect to be somewhere, and somehow I'm not getting there. And then I'm starting to beat myself up because, look, we're not there yet, or something doesn't happen fast enough. And then if you have another pressure point from investor side as well, like why isn't your revenue going up like a hockey stick? What are you going to do about it? Then this is really hard. So also this mentality seems to be changing a bit.
What also we need to know is that high achievers in like CEOs of big companies or unicorns or scale-ups or good legal firms, and they have coaches, but they don't want to talk about it. They also have their own stigma because it's as if they're supposed to be self-sufficient. However, in the network, they exchange these numbers of coaches. Who's your coach? Who's helping you? We all know that we need help. I personally have several mentors and coaches, and every coach is bringing something to me different that the other one is not bringing. I have mentors I can talk to about this thing. So it's normal to get help. You cannot do it by yourself, like you mentioned, like comparing them to athletes. You cannot achieve a lot on your own. You need team members, you need board members, investors, and everybody needs to go in the same direction, have the same values. Talking about investors, of course, as investors, we're like, and sometimes I'm in that position, where I have somebody pitching and I'm like, so what's your growth here? You're expecting like to get like 4 clients next month in the B2B space, for example, and then like 10 the following month. Like, why not like a a bit like speed up the process, And I'm like, what are you doing? You're exactly doing what you don't want others to do to you. I'm like, and one of them, I'm thinking about a specific example. He's like, Raya, we can do that, but like it's not sustainable. It doesn't make sense. I'm not going to squeeze my team and push them, and then this doesn't make sense. And I'm like, you're totally right. And I was in this position of an investor pushing for the numbers, for the growth, because we're just like, we give you money, so we want a return on investment. But it's not the right attitude. It's not sustainable. And it's not fair either. If we were in their position, we would not appreciate that.
But we already are speaking a little bit about solutions. So coaching, maybe understanding that mental health is important. But what are other solutions there? Because there must be some founders in this crowd here who are struggling right now. So what are these kind of like solutions you should really go for?
So just to finish on this one, on investors. So when you are looking for a advisory board or investors, make sure that these people can be your friends, that when things are going wrong, you can actually call them and say, listen, I need help. You can cry in front of them and not be ashamed and not be scared of them. Have this in mind when you are pitching. Select your investors, select people who are bringing support around you.
Selecting right people is definitely good. It's also already one solution bit, but what are other things you guys think?
From us, I'm just going to tell you the Wellfounded approach. At Wellfounded, we see the mental health as just one part of your health and performance. We see your health and performance as one holistic approach, and we look at all the physiology and the biology and start with you get basically a multidisciplinary team, just like the Olympic athletes. Every founder gets a multidisciplinary team, which is led by an expert physician who's specialized in health optimization. We do a general checkup to understand your physiology, your biology, because a lot of things are, you can have a coach and they can tell you, go for it or do this, and maybe you're still not feeling great, but maybe the reason you're not feeling great is because maybe your thyroid is starting to dysfunction. Maybe your glucose spikes during the day are just go all over the place. Maybe you're not eating the way that your body, maybe you have some kind of allergies to a specific type of food that we eat before that important meeting, and then during the meeting you're not actually feeling good. So this understanding how your body, we look at data in all aspects of the company. We're constantly looking like, what are the customer data? What are these data? How is this shaping the company and the market? But we're not looking at what kind of data, biological data and physiological data is actually shaping our behaviors and the way we act. And once we have all this data about the person, we continuously monitor all the data and have two coaches. One is a health coach and one is a performance coach that basically help the person achieve their goals. Okay. In addition to having a personal training plan or whatever special needs the person has. And the most amazing thing is that right now we just started with the first program a month ago. We have 15 founders on board at the moment, and actually their investor is paying for half of the program, and the founders are paying for the rest of the half of the program, which is a very good indication of the investors really being committed to the health of the founder.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I see that we have 5 minutes left. Regarding the questions and solutions, do you guys have any questions you would like to ask? Yes, there is hand 2. Go ahead.
So it's maybe not even a question, but thanks for sharing your story. But I felt that you brought some stigma on the stage, the medicine stigma. I'm super happy that it worked out for you, that Bill, it wasn't for you, and then you got the different coaches. But I feel that we are not talking too much about the medicines as well, but because if your brain chemistry is out of balance, I mean, sometimes you need to have the help outside.
I mean, of course, I don't want to, if medicine works for you, great, it was a choice. For me, I wanted to explore other things. So I didn't want to take prescribed medicine, but if that's a solution for people and that helps them, there should not be a stigma around it. In my case, I just looked for other solutions which I felt more comfortable with. Like I've done some spiritual retreats, this is another stigma, okay? So you just do what feels right for you.
Because I can see it like very often that we are talking about all the health thing, but we don't talk about it. And when you start talking that I actually have used and it had helped me, everybody get oh, you were doing that bad. Like, I mean.
I get your point, and I'm sorry if I expressed it in a way that it sounded like a stigma. No, it's just my personal. We're all free to choose what works for us.
There was another question there, I saw.
So nowadays, when you're looking at a job description, you see this this phrase, we're a fast-paced company. And before I began my own mental health journey, I was like, oh, that sounds like intense. That sounds something that I should be a part of. But now I'm like, that does not sound appealing at all. So what do you think? Is that a red flag?
Possibly.
Fast-paced company.
I think it depends whether, first of all, the words that are used that's one thing. I think that it depends whether you actually really like what the company is doing, the mission of the company, and then meeting the people and really seeing whether, I think at the end of the day, what they write there, they could write fast-paced or slow-paced. But I think that once you meet the team, you will see maybe you can ask that question directly. How do you deal with mental health? How do you deal when there's too much pressure from up? Do you just push it down, or how do you protect your employees? You can just point that out directly.
You should, in a way, take it in a way as an indication that you should ask certain questions in an interview. So definitely go to the interview. Definitely apply for the job. For example, our company is very fast-paced. But at the same time, we also understand, and we have spoken about it, that look, burnout is not okay. This is most likely a journey of 7 to 10 years we're going to take over on. And this means a marathon, really. And you guys mentioned marathon as well, meaning that you can't really burn out, because if you burn out, my burnout was that I was 2 months out of game completely. I didn't do anything. And then this kind of like 2 month holds in your, I don't know, fast-paced company, these can't happen. So you have to, in a way, sometimes be fast-paced, but at the same time, pace yourself. You know, like, guys, let's have a look at this, and then maybe it's okay if you, I don't know, use radical acceptance that life is what it is, and that the realities around you has other ideas, maybe. But I had actually, yes, there is one more question there.
Yeah, I have a question. How to educate the companies that even if they say that they are very open and they have their people, actually when disaster happen, you faced kind of resistance, and I will share my story. I had a breast cancer and I a survival because the prediction was very bad, and I announced that in the company, and again I got depression. And I felt stigma. I felt like people didn't know how to talk to me.
Were you helped?
Sorry?
Were you helped? Did your company support you?
Not really. American company, software, American company. Not really. They sent me to the special line, phone line, that I can call this phone line.
Oh my God. So yeah. So look, this happened. This happens. But I hope that the culture of the companies is changing. I hope that we all understand that maybe this kind of panel helps future founders, when you design the culture in your company, to really pay attention. This might be one of the solutions. I'm really sad that our time ran out already. I feel that we could have had another half an hour, but that's it. That's life. We have to do this kind of radical acceptance. I would say just one thing. My wife is a clinical psychologist, and at some point I realized that she has been coaching me and guiding me. So everybody take 3 things with you. There are mental health vitamins. Sleep well, eat well, and go do fucking sports. So keep your body active. These are 3 simple things, and then you can start actually tackling anxiety and all these other problems when this kind of foundation is there. Then go talk to therapists, coaches, try to understand what's going on with you.
Test different things as well until you find what works for you.
Yeah, and then try what works for you. Thank you so much. I think we're done, aren't
Thank you.
we?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.